shush me.
Oh.
It works!
Oh.
Ah!
There we are. I hate when it catches me off guard.
Trying to shush me.
Hey, am I out of focus? Or is it my glasses?
You're always out of focus. You stick your finger in there and see if your like hair curls any better, babe.
It's kind of foggy to me. I look like I'm foggy.
Welcome, folks, to another edition of I Think I Found the Power Cord. Right?
Might as well be. We're poor Franciscans.
Oh my gosh!
We have a squirrel in there powering
We don't
everything.
call it the real deals for anything. It's like there is a deal out there, and there is a real, and we're still trying to figure out where it is. Welcome. We have a great lineup of questions, idioms, idiosyncrasies, a couple fun things to talk about. Mm-hmm. Deb's on assignment tonight, kids, but we're still going to have fun because guess what? Michael of the Van Halen belt decided to slide back in because he's on the time zone, and he just made it. Christopher's here tonight, and of course you know my fabulous hubby, Mr. Tech Genius.
Tech Genius where?
I don't know. I'm still waiting to meet him too.
Oh, computers, I tell you.
All right,
I thought it was
pray
space.
us in. Pray
all
us in.
Right,
we're all ready.
I'm all prayed out. Our Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, will be humbly prayed. O thou Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roam to the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I'm a little off tonight. Got to give me a little moment to warm up. I didn't have any minutes. I'm laying on my stomach working on a computer. Aww. Father Bob Bailey, if you remember him from Animal Planet and some other shows where he was the pastor on site helping with some of these haunted cases and haunted people. He'll be on next week. So
how funny.
Yeah.
Athena says it's a full moon.
Oh,
hey,
yeah,
Jennifer, hey, Zulma, thank you all for hanging in there with us. Doris and everybody. Thank you. It's just crazy night, kids. And yes, full moon, as we know, folks, affects what? The demonized, the mentally ill, and us supposedly normal people, too. Right?
Supposedly.
All right, Ken, onwards and upwards. What's our top of the hour power tower going on?
Oh, my gosh.
What?
We don't have any news.
Thank goodness. Yeah, you're not allowed to say that word. Tell them what the word.
Forgot about that.
You can't say that word.
I told you it's been one of those days.
Oh, my gosh. We're drawing a blank. I bet you anything Christopher saw something that just irritated his last granola bar in his coffee. Right, Christopher?
Granola bar?
Okay, tell us how you chewed that granola bar and showed it who was boss.
No, he laughed and it came out of his nose.
Probably.
That's my job, our job, Farah, because
oh my gosh. Okay, I want to hear about this granola bar. Let Christopher talk.
My granola bar. Hey, I was noticing that there was something from. This was something odd after centuries of this happening, that there is now a condemnation of the different nun orders for helping assist the priests in their daily household duties. And they're calling it, they're condemning it because they're calling it free servile work. And that the nuns should not be doing this to be serving the men. And that is from one of the Vatican's top newspapers.
That has to do with a granola bar? I don't get it.
Well, that's what really upset his granola bar enjoyment, because as we know, Christopher is a little bit more of a health nut than we are. Oh my gosh! Well, what do you think, Christopher? Do you think we should fly over there and tell him a thing or two? Maybe be like anti-protesters. I'd like that.
All right, no church politics. We don't want to comment on that stuff. So, all right. Did you say onward and upward? Couple of movies. Let's bring up Stephen King's 1922. Stephen King's lost his nut ever since Gerald's Game, according to my sister. And he does not know. It's like he became the king of shock endings. In other words, that's what they do with a lot of movies. That's where the hero goes all the way through something, unlike Misery, which was entertaining when she got her head bashed in with a typewriter. But the villain, you know, I could swear that sounds like a dream I've had once, but you know, this isn't any different. You know, the old Tales from the Crypt used to have this kind of formula where you got yours. You know, you're bad. And even the comic books that were out then, they were like that too. That you got your just dessert. What comes around goes around. Karma is the other, you know, don't want to give kudos to any of these pagan things, but Stephen King's 1992. Yeah, it's just a tragic tale. Well, let's see. How do we begin this? Well, it starts with this man. You can tell he really loves his work, being a farmer, and he has a son. He's probably about maybe 15, 16, probably 16 years old. And he seems to enjoy the work, too. Meanwhile, there's a wife on the porch who seems to be just rather quiet and rocking in her chair back and forth.
Yeah, very nice wife, you know.
You would think.
Content with, you know, the whole farmstead thing. And if you're not familiar with Stephen King, folks, Stephen King basically started out as this, you know, horror genre writer that tried to kind of segue into like some strange writing. And
come on, who doesn't know who Stephen King is?
I don't know, some people may not. I mean, it's like...
Yeah, it's like Steven Spielberg. Who's he? Farah, tell us who Steven Spielberg is.
I don't know who
George
Steven
Lucas, who's
Spielberg
that?
is.
Well, I guess Stephen King's
Isn't he the guy with a
a
lot of money that married like women who like took a lot of his money?
something like that.
Yeah, that's who he is to me.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I give him one thumbs down. He didn't share enough.
1922. We didn't finish it, but we could still comment on it because that's how predictable it was. You know what they do, too, when they play these trailers?
You know when it's going to have a bad ending and you're like, I've seen it off.
I could see where this is going. Both me and her have this kind of writer's, kind of thought thing. We can predict things, and then we just watch it happen. Then every once in a while they surprise us. Even radio surprised us, and some other ones. And then we kind of like, now I know everybody gave it like, Rotten Tomatoes or something, that kind of thing. But these are both Netflix. No, one was actually on another network, and then it was being played on Netflix. That's their competitor. So 1922. So apparently the wife, is quietly disgruntled, and then pops on him that she's selling the farm. And I'm going to sell it to the neighbors down the way so I can get a dress shop in Idaho. So she wants to move to the city, and this is my life. This is the boy's life here, and anyway, that's the beginning of it. So, what do you think is going to happen next when she keeps insisting?
Have either of you guys, did you guys see the movie, 1922?
I've seen the trailer, but no.
No.
I watched the PureFlix version. It was only 3 minutes long.
Yeah, well, it was basically... I'm a big one for psychological thrillers. Me and, mass murderers and psychologically demented people, we're buds right there in the back alley. Until they get too close.
You wish.
So this was one of those movies. It was more a psychological kind of, who done it, kind of why done it, what was going on kind of thing. And it was basically the whole setup was right around the fact that this is a timeless tale, and it goes to the destruction of society, family values, that sort of thing. You have a family unit that, of course, and I don't know why it took so long to divulge. Okay, we're going to do some scene stealers. Why it took so long to divulge the true characters, but it was very, very predictable. And what do I mean by predictable? When you have a farmhouse, even though it was set in 1922, and it is that run down, and you have people stopping by that obviously are more affluent and have more money, it makes you think, okay, well, why are they showing this contrast? Well, the contrast is because, all the money is sunk in the farm, and the farm is obviously not doing as good as other people's farms are. And it's, through, obviously there's no there's nobody to work the farm but the man and the young boy. And when Mom decides she's never been happy and she's going to sell the farm because it was her daddy's farm and they are working their daddy's land, her daddy's land, and she's going to take her half and she's going to go and get herself a little shop in the city. And of course this comes on the timely heels of the young boy's coming of age. He's 16, Ken? 17 years of age, something like that. And he's all of a sudden taken a shine to the little local girl that's, a few farmhouses away. And Daddy comes up and says, well, if your mom gets an itch and to sell everything, you're going to have to say goodbye to your little girlfriend. So the psychological drama begins with Daddy laying the groundwork for let's hate Mom and, push her into not selling this.
Like parental alienation. Totally. It's not hard to do because all the stuff you said was true. You just emphasized that,
and it was just...
she does present divorce, that divorce is the only option if he doesn't move to Idaho. I don't know why you'd want to stay with somebody. Why would you want someone to go with you when you don't like them enough to stay?
It was kind of bizarre.
I know, but it seems like that's going on with couples now, though, too. The ultimatum. So if you do it, they're going to love you still. So condition again here, folks. Good grief.
But it was a good slice of Americana at best. It was definitely, there was no love lost. Obviously, they had been in love at one time because they produced a child. The point is just like this young boy was born, they were forced to marry because of a young incident. Their son was warned, don't do this, don't play around with this girl or else, she could get pregnant. And of course, history repeats itself. The boy is convinced that he can't go with his mother to the city. He's going to stay with his father. It was pretty sad. It was a pretty worn out story. And of course, the girl that he gets pregnant, her father is wealthy and comes over and hassles the dad and says, I've got to take care of this. I got to send her to a convent, give the baby up. It's going to cost me, whatever, $500. You got to come up with half of it. And he's like, I don't have it. How's he going to get it? Sell the farm. Well, he's not going to sell the farm. And the only way he could do it is take a loan or a note out on the property because he can't sell it without his wife's permission. It's, in her father's name.
I was kind of surprised. I mean, Farah, you said that it was more common. It's like,
yes.
So they go to the point where you got to marry, or it's the right thing to do because you got her pregnant.
That's the way it's been, though. I mean,
no, but they did something different. Now the thing is, send him to a convent and force him to give it up for adoption. He was willing to marry her and everything just because they were younger.
But the father did not want his daughter marrying the worthless farm boy. He was not appropriate for her. Remember, he didn't make enough money.
So it was a society thing. Yeah, I thought that was just kind of weird. It's like forcing them for adoption. That's just, I mean, it's not as bad as abortion, but, it's what's so hard up about them two? I mean, like I said, Jackie Gleason in the show The Honeymooners. Yeah. You see that small apartment? That's smaller than my first apartment. You see that place? That's like Skid Row. But that's the way my parents and everybody else seemed to live in back then, and they were fine with it until they got their house. And now, of course, they paid $30,000 for a house bigger than mine back in 1961. So that's weird. Kind of a...
Well, to sum up the movie so we don't have to draw it out any further, is basically it was very long drawn out until he finally got around to murdering her. He actually made his son help, which was pretty despicable. And, of course, the kid can't murder his mom. They toss her in a well. I mean, isn't that attractive? And then they toss a cow on top of her, which, of course, breaks its leg. Isn't that cruel? Then he's forced to shoot the cow. And then he's got to tell the sheriff, his wife's disappeared. His sheriff walks around and sees her shoes under the bed and said, well, how far did she get with no shoes, dude? But nobody investigates this. I mean, this is, unfortunately, this is typical turn of the century attitude towards women that were kind of, expendable. And if they weren't happy, they ran off. And most guys were like, yeah, that's what they do. They don't think twice. And then, of course, the predictable happens. Stuff starts happening. Well, it just so turns out that this farm that Daddy left her, obviously had something buried in the basement wall. And I'm not going to give you too many spoilers what it is, but that's how, for whatever reason, this man begins his tale just before he's going to do something really, really bad, and he confesses to this crime. He's being haunted in his own home.
So, okay, did you watch the part I didn't? I quit it early.
Yes, I watched a little bit more, but it wasn't that great, you guys.
So,
it was
she dies, and
his
guilt isn't enough for.
Well, it just it was supposed to be a thriller, and I wasn't that thrilled.
It's a thriller, not a horror movie. In other words, huh?
Yeah, and it's a common theme, you guys. I'm sure you guys have seen it plenty of times. Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, we won't spend all our time on that one.
Longer, please.
Okay, so the second one is Radios. I have a keyboard rack mount module. It's called Radios, Korg Radios. But I'm not surprised I didn't remember that. I had to look up the movie in my head and go deep in the filing cabinet with a flashlight. That didn't work, and I had to keep smacking it. In other words, I couldn't think of it right away. Mm-hmm. For people who lack the artistic vision to understand what I was talking about there. But Radius was a kind of a sci-fi, I don't know what you call it, sci-fi thriller or something. So it begins with this guy waking up from an obvious car wreck. There's junk everywhere. He's got blood on his head. There's a taillight flashing, because another car might be in a ditch. I don't know. Or another part of the car is in a ditch with the battery still attached. Who knows? So he's just wandering around town, and then he flags some guy. He flags some guy down driving by, and the guy just drives off the road, and then you hear ding. It's like what happened to him? He goes over there, and the guy's eyes are white, and he's dead, and his head's leaning against the wheel and honking the horn.
He looks like he's got cataracts in his eyes. You guys, it was really creepy.
Yeah. So then there's a diner a little further down the road. He's like, "What the heck? What are the odds he's going to have a heart attack?" So he goes to the diner, and by the time he gets in the diner, he sees everybody's dead in the same way. So how do I? This has got spoilers, folks. I don't know. So I'm not going to really tell the ending or anything. I guess that's so.
And that was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, that was Netflix too. But I think it was originally maybe could have been HBO. It was made for TV, which could mean HBO. Is Showtime still around? Or any of those?
They might be.
And Netflix picked it up under contract, like they do some DVDs that never made it to the big screen. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty good. It made you think afterwards.
Totally.
So this continues on until he runs into this girl. I'll skip over some of the other stuff. It's like each incident's like when you're the Walking Dead guy, the sheriff, and you're walking through town, and each incident, I don't need to outline them, Mm-hmm. So I think he's starting to figure stuff out. So at some point, he goes into. I'm surprised he remembered. He seems to have amnesia, so he actually remembers to go to his house, but we don't know it's his house. I just think it's some farmer's, and he's looking through stuff in the drawers. He looks out the window, and there's some guy there on a tractor. And so, since he thinks it's some sort of airborne chemical warfare agent or something, he's like, "Hey, get out of get out of there!" And oh no, wait! By then he thinks that he's killing them or something somehow. Yeah. He's got some sort of genetic, I don't know, chemical warfare thing coming at him or something. And the guy goes like, "What? Does that thing like that?" And he goes over there, puts his gloves down. "I'll go see what he wants." He goes over there and he drops dead. About 40 feet away. And he's like, "No," So finally he goes and hides in the shed on the same property, and I think he sees a sheriff or something come over there, and he's thinking, "Oh no, great." And before the sheriff's deputy gets over there,
she didn't tell people. He doesn't remember who he is. He has no clue who he is.
Yeah,
he doesn't even know who he is.
No, by then he remembers, or he got some information that he was Ian. Gosh, I guess the name's not important.
No.
So he knows the name, but he doesn't remember anything else that much.
All he knows is what his name might be. This movie was really good. It was really, really kind of far out science fiction-y fun, kids.
So what do you figure Radius means? Radius means, and you're listening to the show.
You have to understand what a pie is. And I really just bake them. I don't understand what it is. I don't live in a pie or nothing.
Yeah, he's killing everything from a radius of 40 to 50 feet. And, anything living. Birds drop out of trees, everything. So this one gal comes up, and then she says his name. Sorry, I forgot the name, but and she's knocking on the shed. No, go away! You know, he's afraid he's going to kill her. For some reason, she's not bothered. She knows his name too. So we're like, who is this? His wife? You know, before he lost his amnesia or whatever, and he didn't see any pictures in his house. You know, so I don't know. It was a good movie. I recommend that one, but not Stephen King's.
Long story short, kids. There's two people with amnesia. He gets hooked up with this girl, and the clues finally let you know how they cross paths. And you find out, and it all starts around, you know, these people that don't know how they're connected and why people are dropping dead around him. And come to find out in the end that he doesn't remember. He's the serial murderer. It's really kind of cool. It's like, oh, you're a bad guy.
And what way? Yeah, that's another story. What happens in the end?
That's wild. So yeah, if it's one of those sci-fi movies that unfortunately there's very few movies today that don't contain a lot of cussing, a lot of nudity, a lot of sex, drug use. This one didn't have no drug use, no sex. Sorry, nothing really, no disgusting. I mean, there wasn't even a blood. It was kind of thought-provoking in the sense that it made you think, all right, what's really going on here? And then you find out he's just a serial murderer at the end.
Yeah, that's no fun.
But it did have that cool kind of sci-fi thing going on that we're not going to tell you about.
Oh, we're not? No.
Nah, we're not going to spoil it totally. Okay. Poor Chris. And we got to let them know the movies ahead of time that you're going to talk about, because I didn't even know you were talking about these.
Oh, you didn't?
No. Like, you tell me anything?
I think I told you last week, but
yeah, you might have. I just don't remember anything either.
We forgot it all. So,
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You get to be the boy.
Yeah. So let's see what.
I know, right, Chris?
Dr. Freud.
Dr. Freud.
We need one with Chris's face on it. Let's ask Chris.
Let's see what Dr. Freud says. What do you say, Dr. Freud? People are gonna be like. Then there'll be like the extremists out there, you know, you know, like, he's channeling. Always looking to slander the people who are doing their work. Are you a bedwetter? Dr. Freud? What happened when I was a kid has nothing to do with you. All right, it's time for, we don't have an intro for that. Ask a Demonologist live. We don't have a call-in number, but you can ask through the chat room, otherwise known as the replies. What is that called anyway? The real-time comments that are below the video that you're watching right now. And we got somebody's here that were related to the show with Father Chad last week. Some of them I thought were, you know.
Oh, that exactly. You guys need to like start chewing on those.
Some of them, yeah, that we kind of left open.
Like bacon.
Yeah. I'll go to the ones that weren't related to, let's see, let's, well, I'm going to go to the top. Okay. Can a demon regain his strength between exorcisms?
I thought you were going to say exercise.
Exercises? We don't lose our strength during exercises.
They go to the gymnasium and work out, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Pump you up, we pump you down.
I'm at Vic Tanny. Am I supposed to go possess somebody right now? All right, thank you, Lord and Master. Sacred man of nothing.
Oh my God.
Unholy Master. Yes, I will go there now. All right, give me my towel, Freddy. All right, that goes on behind the scenes with demons, by the way. Can a demon regain his strength between exorcisms? Oh, but the answer is no on the other the thing that I said before that. Well, let's see. This came up. Father Chad Reminger said it in something, and I kind of figured it because if you know the nature of demons, you don't have to have personally experienced it. Father Chad spoke it from personal experiences. It's not like it's said by the fathers or the saints of the past. And it does seem to be true that if you don't hammer it and you do it to the priestly schedule as a priest, for example, and you go there a month later, well, I think I got you in the calendar here. Okay, let's do it the last Friday of next month. Well, the demon seems to be like, Michael Myers. He gets up, pulls the axe out of his head, looks around, and goes and kills the next person. The more time you get between exorcisms, it seems to regain its strength. Anybody want to add to that or validate that opinion from personal experiences? Let's see. Who do we start with? Well, Michael, you're here tonight, so what do you say? Oh, did I lose Michael?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I
okay.
just lost you because it garbled up.
He's trying to remember the question.
I'm sorry.
You having a fair moment?
No, it garbled up. I lost. It got chunky.
Yeah,
there.
he said it just sounded garbled. Repeat the question, darling.
Oh. What part of it was garbled?
The whole question. Just repeat the whole question.
Oh, can a demon regain his strength between exorcisms? That's where, if you wait too long between exorcisms, it seems that you have to work harder the longer you wait. Whereas if you would have hit it quicker, like maybe the day after tomorrow, instead of the end of next month, it seems to sort of regain its strength, like you kind of lost a little bit of what you accomplished in an exorcism as a deliverance minister or an exorcist priest. Mm-hmm. Father Chad seems to believe in that from personal experiences. What do you say?
It depends how long you're waiting between the exorcism or the deliverance. Yeah. The other thing, too, is the Holy Spirit is also on top of that as well. Keeping it down or holding it down weak. So it depends. If you're waiting like a long time, maybe like 3 months or something between that, maybe it could regain strength. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, if you're doing an exorcism, I don't see it bouncing back right away the next day. Like, hey, I just took some demon vitamins, I'm back in action. Usually it's being worn down.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Usually through intercession, either through petition to Jesus, or whatever. So if I break off on the ministry, the Holy Spirit or Jesus or God Himself, holding it down or doing something with it.
Yeah, that's true. Like you wait longer, and it won't happen. It won't happen right away, because even when the house is done, the next day you're not really going to get anything. In a few days, and I think it might vary too. Depends on, is there some sort of mortal sin going on in the house that it's related to? Do they get back?
Right.
Are they still repeating the same action over and over that got them in trouble to begin with? I mean, I guess there's variables.
Exactly.
Chris, you want to go ahead and comment on this? This could be something that's even biblical that you might have a Bible quote for.
Well, I was just thinking that I kind of, on the flip side, I mean, if we look at just the basic prayer life of the Christian, we're challenged to, pray always. But, if we're not consistent with our prayer, if we don't take out that time every day, then we do grow weak in our prayer life. So if we can grow weak in our prayer life by how we space out our prayers, or if we're not consistent to them as we should, then to me it would just make sense that, yes, the demon could grow stronger in between the various spiritual attacks against it.
Yep.
It would make sense
and
to me,
to add
too. Yeah, go ahead.
I said to add on that, too, like if there's like multiple sins, say it's an apartment building or something where the demon's being exorcised, if there's like multiple sin, and I want to go into it, like dark sin or something like deep and dark sexual, multiple people doing it, that energy could feed the demon, too, to energize it.
Well, and to expand on that, because, I don't exactly use the same terminology, Mike, but I see exactly what you're leading to. More or less what I have to say from my perspective, I see, is that, as you say, when there's multiple layers of exhibiting and existing sins, whatever those sins may be, just like a previous murder that had already happened in a house, if there are more murders going on, it attracts like cockroaches. It's like it's like a feed pile for deer, except this is a feed pile for the demonic. So if somebody's undergoing an exorcism, and whoever is working on the person steps away for a time, and there's sins going on around that person that are not stopped, not halted, more of the little small guys will jump in and go, hey, I want to come party, I want to step in the ring now. And I think then that leads to more multiple entities and more layers that, the exorcist has got to help get off.
Yep.
The longer he waits, the worse it gets. Especially like in cases of where you have like SRAs, satanic ritual abuse survivors, because a lot of times they don't even know what they're fighting. And they don't even know what they do because they lose consciousness and they may go do something, which is crazy.
Exactly.
That's the hard thing.
But speaking of that too, they could also be channeled as a occult conduit to generate energy.
Yep.
Through sexual sin. Now I won't go any deeper in that, but I know something similar happened during 911 that we had some information that something like that was triggered along the occult lines to generate energy for that.
Invitational little cockroaches. It's a cockroach ball.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is a great topic because it can apply to oppressions and infestations too. Anytime something is being dealt with in prayer to counter it, that if you don't deal with it soon enough and you let it go, why you should bless your house. Say if you're having a problem, it seems to be all gone. And maybe there's money 3 times a day, like I say, morning, night, and then in the middle of the night when they wake you up, or your guardian angel does, like after midnight especially. And then if you do it less as you feel you can. But I wish that priests were more available for these things. A lot of them are very busy. And sometimes they schedule things not because of strategy, but because that's the soonest they can get back. That's wrong. In some cases, and they don't have a choice. And I think if they knew that this is a relevant factor, and when we put things on here and we say it, I've already gone over it for maybe even 30, 40 years sometimes, and I'm absolutely sure this applies, and all of you agree. That's why I wanted to bring this up. I was pretty sure this is why we have all you here. Everybody's got something else different, and I'm just waiting if Deb was here. That would have been a good one for Deb to sound off on, but
yes.
So the next one is.
I have a question.
Oh yes, so
relating
go ahead.
Specifically to that, because this relates to it, because I think this needs to be discussed. People are always concerned that when they are trying to learn more about exorcism and about possessions, with trying to learn more. We had a question from Michael. Does that open you up to being oppressed? Because there's a lot, there's different schools of thought here, and I'd like us to kind of flesh this out about why certain priests or why certain pastors think that one way or they think another way. So the question is, one is learning more about the spiritual world, the spiritual life, spiritual defense, exorcism, deliverance. Does that really leave you up to oppression or open to oppression?
That means you're more vulnerable, in other words?
Yes, I would think so.
Oh, yeah. Well, well, we could start with you, Mike. I think you guys know what I'm going to say. Mike, go ahead. Just to hear your perspective.
To me, once you step in the ring for a fight, you're open. Seriously, so you can't throw punches. Protect me.
No, you cannot even get in there standing next to the boxer and say, hey, I'm going to hold your gloves. You're going to get punched. Period.
Exactly. You're in that fight.
That's a good
I try to do the Burgess Meredith. Get back in there and hit him, Rocky.
That's right. That's right.
You're next to Rocky.
Oh, boy, that's been a long time.
Oh, my gosh. That's
or I say you come alongside him, then you back off as they get more strength.
Oh, my gosh.
But you're in it. That's when I worked with people that possessed, is when I had stuff fly across the room of my house, things like that early on. And that's why I've seen some of that stuff. Like you said, you get smarter, more wisdom, you go deeper in prayer as God grows you, and that stuff shuts down. But you still get the oppression, what I call the mind funk, where you under attack. I look for little cracks around your house to find people or go after relationships.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay, Mike, you got anything philosophically to add that, or any other thing?
No, that's pretty much it.
Well, Plato said, no, that's okay. Don't talk about your childhood.
My Burgess Meredith Nortonism in there, so that's right.
Okay, Christopher.
That could be kind of a retaliation thing, a question.
Right.
And does that fit more? Because I think we talked about that once. If you even pray for possessed, you've entered the arena to a certain degree. Pretty much everybody agrees with that. I think. So, what do you think, Chris? You think that that's all something pretty much agreeable?
Focus.
Anything to focus in that on?
Well, I think, of course, I'm a big lover of the Lord of the Rings, and I just think of that scene where, towards the end, Frodo and Sam have finally reached the land of Mordor. They're nearing the end of their journey towards Mount Doom to destroy the ring.
Yes.
And the enemy has been looking, the big eye from the tower has been searching everywhere, and suddenly something happens and he spots them and realizes, oh, they're within the territory. To me, that's kind of the same thing here. Is that I don't like the term, but those the ordinary people going about their lives, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But those of us that kind of feel an inkling, kind of a calling by the Spirit into this, those that start studying, it's kind of suddenly the great eyes, suddenly, of evil is that, oh, hey, there they are. You're stepping out into that and saying, okay, through the power of the Lord, I'm kind of placing myself along the battlefront
mm-hmm.
on behalf of. And so, yeah, you without knowing how else to put it, you
mm-hmm.
suddenly become a kind of a threat because you suddenly are now standing on the front lines voluntarily, being, and placing yourself in the Lord's hand and saying, yeah, use me however you want in this fight.
That's a good way of explaining
mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Christopher. Farah, anything to add? Anything?
Well, I just want to touch on a little bit about what Mike was saying earlier with the analogy of a boxer. I kind of, I like that analogy,
mm-hmm.
but I like the one, how little kids are, and little kids have this great sense of fairness, okay, and if you put one little kid like in a sandbox, and he's playing fine with his toys, and then you add another little kid, the little kid's going to start grabbing his toys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way little kids are, and that's kind of how I see any time a person starts a series of prayers. We're all called, to pray this stuff off of ourselves. Anytime somebody says, hey, would you pray for me? I'm experiencing this and this and this. You're basically taking away the devil's toys. And the devil doesn't like that. So he's going to take a swipe at you because he's having fun. This is his toys. This is his sandbox. And you're in there. You're going to get sand in your eyes. You're going to get bit. You might get kicked. It's not going to be pretty. So my advice is, if you don't want to get bit and kicked, get out of the sandbox and just wave from the outside.
Oh my gosh. I know that there's so many metaphors, and you know what? Metaphors still work. They call them parables in the Bible, so...
for a reason. For a weasel, reason.
Yeah, I've been using one lately about this sort of thing that when you're a deliverance minister, somebody who's actually affecting this at a direct level, that, prayers even, but not as much. The higher the level of help you're doing, the more you're going to get affected. It's almost like that you should be helping to pay the ransom. And a lot of times they're not able to if they're oppressed to the point of possession. They can't even get a prayer out.
Right.
No.
So who's going to pay the ransom to at least get them to the point where they can fight? Like you give them the weapon, and they can actually stand up and swing the weapon. But someone's got to pay the ransom. Sometimes if you don't pay the ransom, it's going to be taken from you.
I know, that's a sad thing.
And it comes, it could be financial, it could be physical health. Those are the two top ones. We hear it out there all the time, these guys with migraines, these kidney stones that, go on forever.
Yes.
How about fibromyalgia? Just as the victims, the people who enter into the battle can be affected in just the same way. Sad.
Yes.
But true. And it is a pain that the more you step it up, even if you don't realize you stepped it up when you actually entered your first real possession case, then you realize things, hey, my old formula's not working. True. You got to step it up too, because basically the demon did, because he's stepped up in that level of demonic manifestation. He's not in an oppression, he's in a possession. And he's more possessive of that person in that situation, and you meddle with their legal affairs, you gave it legal right to fight you back.
Basically,
it's like the guy who got invited to live in the house. You come to the house and you try to run him out for the person that lives there. He's going to approach you with a shotgun.
Like I said, don't mess with the devil's toys unless you want to get
robbed.
Amen. This is a good one. Farah's an angel expert. She's an angel in herself, though. Look at that face. She hates it when I put her on the spot. Yeah, I love that face. Are good angels stronger than the highest demon? This is the question I think that we talked about in the past, and I want to start with you on this one, Farah, if you don't mind.
Oh, please. I'm not the seminarian. I'm just the opinionarian.
No, this isn't really I mean, you can get some hints, but this is not a seminarian question. We need our female demonologist to start with, because
so what's the question
you're kind of
again?
the angelologist. Are good angels stronger than even the highest demon?
All right, you're talking about good angels. I don't think there's any such thing as bad angels, other than there's fallen angels and there's angels that glorify God. That's the only difference. It's not good or bad. They are.
I guess that means
they
God's,
are. They
God's
exist
angel.
forever, and they are immortal creatures. And you've got angels that will either do God's will or that won't do God's will. In the Jewish Talmud, they're talked about as they're like attorneys. They're basically tattling on you. Because either you are doing God's will or you're not doing God's will. And if you cannot compare the side that actually works for God, because not only do they have the power of God's Holy Spirit, His creation behind Him, but they also have the power of God's Son, created so that all knees would bend. That is scriptural. That is verified by hundreds of saints. That there is no fallen angel that must not obey the name of Jesus Christ, as well as they are subject to God via His guardian angels, which are protecting you. And that's all I got to say on that, because I'm not really an expert. But next, I like my guardian angel.
Well, I'll just answer with a short one, and we'll go to Mike, and then. After that, and that's
like cereal.
Oh, wait a minute! I actually checked the wrong thing. Are good angels stronger than the highest demon? I'll just give. I'll let the other guys go on first. I think I'll, give them a chance, because this is not really that hard a one to answer. I think first,
Well, and we all have opinions, about our guardian angels and stuff like that too. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Christopher, since Farah brought you up, let's hear the seminarian side of things, like even the biblical, anything that's in church doctrine that might illustrate that, let us know.
Well, automatically, because they are full, within God's grace, they glorify God, they do what is right, automatically that gives them full strength over the darkness. Light always is stronger than darkness. Love always overcomes hate. Courage always overcomes fear. I mean, you can go on and on with that list, but the servants of God, because to glorify God, you have to have your proper humility too before the presence of God. Humility will always overcome the arrogance of the enemy, and so there really is no contest. And I know that they battle it out. I know that we're kind of the battlefield. They're always it's like the two angels. One on one side's like, keep going, you can do this, and the other one's like, hey, we want you, But I mean, that's so yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this one, but I mean, the end thing is, yes, the least righteous angel is always more powerful than the fallen.
Nice way to put it.
That's those things you added actually gave the virtues that lays it on kind of inner levels. Like, why? And it's like that. You answered a second probable question. It's like, why would they be stronger than the highest demon? You answered that. Thank you very much for that. Saint Michael the Archangel. We were talking about the last week. He is second from the bottom in the 9 choirs. I mean, and according to his rank. And he beats Satan, the highest angel, and not just by rank, but by his nature, a seraphim. And along with that, the attribute that Chris described pretty much describes it. So people ask, what was my own guardian angel and not to protect me from any demon? It is, but it depends on your spiritual state. You tie his hands. True. The more you turn your back on God and you're half and half, you're going to get half the power of the protection. And we don't even know how they protect you every day. We know the stories. We'll do another show on angels where we talk about miracle stories and protection. Who is it that actually makes you look up at the last minute before you almost hit a car because you're looking for your phone that you dropped or something? It's your guardian angel. Yep. What do you want that diminished by 50%? You know, and because you decided, you know, that you love doing LSD too much or something. I don't know. You name it, shoplifting. Any of those things, don't tie your guardian angel's hands and then complain. You know?
Yep.
That's like being mean to the cops and he remembers you when he pulls you over.
That's pretty bad.
Exactly. I guess we can move on. There's nothing to add. Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a quick one for you, too, just to sum this one up. If you look at Satan was the highest ranking angel. Mm-hmm. If you look between Ezekiel 28 and...
the most beautiful, the highest ranking, most beloved by God. Mm-hmm. Beloved.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we go to Luke 4, where Jesus is confronted by the temptations of Satan, and Satan goes, "If you bow before me," and then Jesus throws back at him with Deuteronomy 6, "You were made to serve me."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And take that context and jump over to Revelation 20, where Satan is thrown into the pit. It says an angel throws him into the pit. Doesn't identify it. Could have been a janitor angel. He's under the Jesus, right? It
could be the one that cleans out the dung in
That's right.
in the septic tank.
That's so funny.
I get the shoe shine angel, throw him in or whatever, you know, just to humiliate him. But you know, it says that, so it doesn't matter because at the end, God's in charge.
Always.
That's a good one.
Always.
Yeah. Okay. Well. I was going to say something about that, and I was like, what was I going to say?
I don't know. What were you going to say?
Say about that? There's something... Well, I guess it's not important enough to hold the show up while I scratch my head. Guttural Voices from the Possessed.
That's always fun.
By the way, if you ever see me and I type something wrong, just know that I'm Iggy, the tech guy, and I'm also Freddie, the soundboard guy, and I'm Luke, the video control guy. I do too many things, so please forgive me if I accidentally type a typo, and it's really hard on little poor me.
Yeah.
And I'm Farah's makeup guy, too. No, I'm just kidding. Just to add more to my list. I don't Okay.
Oh, my gosh. Rose wants to know if Steve's monkeys are stronger than demons. I'd be scared of that. Ask that. That's a good one, Rose.
Oh, hey, that reminds me of... we'll take questions from the comments chat. If you're still in the old chat room, I think it's kind of been nullified. We might even go to doing live from YouTube. Just after the Father Bob show next week, maybe. We're not having a problem with that. We're having a problem with the hardware tonight, and that's been a long time.
It's been a while.
So, on that thing on the guardian angels thing, something we got to remember too. We're like the choirs of angels in order doesn't have anything to do with that. When this one goes toe to toe with a sword with the other one, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to win. Guardian angels are guardians. They're warriors. Archangels are one step higher. When Michael appears, he appeared with a sword. The flaming sword, for example. And so you're getting an angel of the archangels of protection with Michael. But when you get the higher ones, you get these other things. Maybe a greater wisdom, knowledge, who knows? It's the fallen angels have lost a lot of that. Not just the half of their attributes and virtues that, was part of what the essence of God was. But that shouldn't be a surprise, though, when the nature of your guardian angels is actually protection. They're warriors. They're not just your advisors. Hey, make a right here. Hey, it's up right straight ahead. 3 houses.
I have a question from the chat room.
Yeah.
We have a question about, since we're talking about exorcism and stuff like that, can you perform an exorcism on someone without their consent?
Sometimes you have no choice, but you have to get their legal right from their guardian, whatever. Like it is on earth as it is in heaven, I think that would probably be. So, like, sometimes the spouse ends up getting it by default, but what if there's no spouse and some power of attorney will actually, because demons are legalists, does some of the stuff that happens on earth with power of attorney will it fit? And then, you know, like the person who rents the house, you don't even need to get the landlord's permission to displess the house.
Exactly.
Because you rent it, you temporarily are owning that house. You know, we don't really own our houses anyway, right? We're just like borrowing them until we pay them in full when we own them.
Exactly.
So it's not that much different than a rental, which is like a, you know, it's like a rent to own in a way. You know, I mean, it's just think if you spend your 40 years of your life in a rental, and then you can walk away without having to sell it and that kind of thing. I mean, in a way, that's kind of more of an advantage than
so
you know,
true.
yeah. Well, let's see what everybody else has to say. Who do we want to start with? So they spin the big wheel. That's what I need to do. I need to come up with those spinners like they have in. My favorite one is the Game of Life or whatever that one that has the clicker sound in there. I should get one of those. You know what I mean? Next time we go to the flea market fair,
it'll be easy to make one. All you've got to do is just draw a circle, tap some nails down, and put something in the middle and spin.
Oh, that's no fun. I want a clicker one like the Game of Life. When that clicks like a slot machine.
Game of Life and put it on here. Silly boy.
All right. Okay, so who do you want to start with? Michael?
Why not? Let's pick on Michael.
Let's see if we covered all bases.
Pick on me.
Yeah.
Let's pick on Michael. Michael's fun.
Yeah, I had a situation similar recently where we had to deal with somebody who was in the process of becoming possessed, ritual abuse, and they were fully there when we were getting ready to do the preparing for like the exorcism, and they were fully cooperating with it. But then other parts were brought up through the occult, where the 4-year-old was present, the other person wasn't, and we couldn't get near the demon.
Oh.
And during that day, the last day we went with this person, the demon actually brought up people from the other room to interrupt the session because it didn't want to confront us. And that turn, we had to just let the person walk away until we had their adult return who wanted to work with us.
Oh, no.
Otherwise, it could have been like a whole weird case. So it depends. It depends on the situation, too. You have to evaluate what's going on and what's going on legally. And we knew that person was ready for it, but they had to be present to come back and want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, another gray area. So many times as people ask, and I can give them 10 reasons, or 10 different ideas, options that are applicable. And the variable thing, as I always use that word, it happens so many times, and the variable is us. It's not even... We know the demons, I mean, if you go to the right sources, you can learn the psychology of demons. If you go to the wrong ones, you're going to spend too much time in Crowley, Kabbalah, all this stuff that's false, because it doesn't work, and it just gets you in more trouble. I'm arguing with a lot of people, if you call it that. We'll call it dialogue in Franciscan. On YouTube and so forth, it's the same, it's like can demons do good? Oh yes, they help me find my car keys, and these arguments like that, they just don't get it, and it's a pointless argument. You might as well argue with a Satanist about Satanism. They're pretty hard-headed. So all the other denominations or whatever, not denominations, other faiths aren't even as hard as that one as much. They got it all figured out, Anybody else to add on that one? That one probably. Farah. Yeah. So let's Farah. You.
What was the question?
The question was when a person's possessed and you can't get their permission.
Well, that's right. I was the one that asked it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're channeling Deb tonight.
No, Farah's she's the only one monitoring the chat. And the comments.
I'm trying to comment too,
so
and I just got kicked out twice.
Yeah,
I've had to reboot. I'm sitting here struggling with it.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it just, I agree with what Michael says. You really have to be careful. You have to know the case, and each exorcist, in the Catholic Church, they have to make the call. And the way it currently works is that they do need permission. They need the permission of a parent or somebody, a brother or a sister, and usually always they will not ever perform an exorcism on somebody that says, I don't want this. I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in it. They'll be inviting more trouble than the person needs or they need.
Yeah.
So permission is very, very important when exercising. Now, a lot of people can argue, and I'm sure, Christopher, I want to hear your take on this too. A lot of people think that, the devil, just will go wherever he wants and nobody can do anything about it, or consequently, the devil's not going to leave just because, he's been told to go. We are all called to get rid of our own demons, kids. Not everybody's up to the task, and that's why sometimes you got to get a minister or priest involved.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with people that don't want to get rid of their demons, there's no point. It's your desire over what? Their desire. We're all given free will, and I think that's the biggest thing that we're not understanding here, kids. We've all got free will, and we're all going to do what we want to do. It's either going to be what God wants to do for us, or we're going to take care of whatever we want and make ourselves our own gods and do what we will. That's my opinion about that. What?
This fits as, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but this fits this recent one, is that because the gal who's the daughter, and she's 21, so she's past 18, for example, and not a minor, that I just gave them instructions on how to pray and do things about it, like St. Monica did with St. Augustine, because she didn't want a priest over or any of that, and we could have got it done in the diocese at some point. So everybody's hands were tied except for the prayers.
True.
Chris, you deal with this kind of stuff because sometimes people don't want necessarily the treatment after the diagnostic, and they just want to sit on a couch and talk about their problems, and you have to go to, say, power of attorney, or depending on their age, and this could be a legal thing too. Give any kind of ideas that you have on this topic?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of one of those, like Farah said, reminded, we're all given the gift of free will. Not even God oversteps his own gift with that. And in one instance, people say, well, why can't God just force everyone to love? Well, because love forced is not love.
That's right.
We're not robots. We're his children, and he wants it freely. I mean, yeah, my role as dad is to kind of set the boundaries, for my children, but at the end of the day, I want them to, on their own, come up and say, hey, I love you, okay. But when it comes to, and I'm thinking about my clients, but I'm also thinking about, people that, as we have said before, have made it a consecutive habit of choosing the enemy and choosing doing bad and choosing that. Over time, that's what, the Latin would be the habitus, where we get the word habit. They've developed a certain habit.
Good point.
Whereas on we're called to develop the good habits, the virtues, which allows us to be more free to choose more good.
Yes.
On the flip side, if we have developed consecutively to choose the bad, we may think we're free, but in essence, we've kind of lost that, and that's what they call the slavery. That is the slavery. We have that free will that is now kind of really warped, and man, it as far as the legal thing, someone would need to come in and say yes, no, because they can no longer choose for themselves. And we see that sometimes in our clinic. People that have, 20, 30 years that have become lost in addiction. Okay, yes. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and uncle, what do you okay, you brought them here because you see they need help. Okay, let's now proceed with the steps that we know we need to take. So that's my take on it.
All right, thank you for that. That's what we have our guy who actually takes the psychological part, not just the seminarian part.
Yes, exactly.
Especially when you're working with abuse, of alcohol and drugs. That's a vexation, obsession, oppression, and they're always there. That's why they're locked into it. That it's in a way. If Michael flew over there and, for example, even as a laity, and did some deliverance prayers in the person, if it's God's will, and they want it gone, they might be freed when they come see you next. They say, "Hey, I don't have a craving for that stuff anymore. I didn't even want a cigarette."
Exactly. Isn't that amazing how that works?
Yeah, but that's a good thing to know. It's just that be careful. Don't go to the wrong people. You're going to get one demon replaced or another.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. We'll give the opportunity for another question if Farah had seen one in the chat room.
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is a really interesting one, and I think, I definitely think this needs to be addressed because I don't think it's very understood. A lot of times, and as you know, Michael deals with a lot of cases that are very indigenous related. Indigenous as to the people, the country, the religion. And a lot of times here in America, we've got a lot of milquetoast beliefs, a lot of things that are filtered down. We do. I mean, it's like, I love my bread. What's your religion? I'm a little Christian. What's that mean? Well, I like Jesus. Okay, what does that mean? We've homogenized everything about ourselves here. Whereas in other countries, when you step over to Mexico or you step down into South America or Peru, these people are steeped in, thousands of years of tradition of worshiping the same pagan gods. They have done the same rituals of binding and ordering spirits to attack people. They have ways of attaching parts of this and parts of that to concoct something that is going to basically cause you to miscarry, children the rest of your life. It's very, very strange when you step into other areas of the world and realize that, they are like us, they look like us, they act like us, but a lot of people still have a lot of different beliefs. And that's what this question is based on here, everybody. Dawn would like to know, do you need to have a full knowledge of, let's say, if you're going to be driving, let's just talk about Haiti's a good one, because you have a variety of African religions, you have a variety of some of the Puerto Rican and Spanish religions that were combined into, I mean, I'm thinking of 4 off the top of my head, besides some of the ones where they actually do feed this fabulous fish poison to people and bury them, and then when they bring them out and declare that they've been brought back from the dead, they're actually kind of like, I don't want to say autistic, but their brain is dead, and they will definitely do whatever evil thing that they're asked to do. And that is a very, very, very true thing that happens over there in Haiti and in other islands. So do you have to have knowledge of voodoo or of the actual voodoo demons themselves? Does it help in order to expel these demons?
Michael, this is a good one for you since you spent some time overseas. That's not our forte.
I know, that's why he's laughing. He's
actually,
like, which one do you want to talk about now?
I was over Haiti by a pastor. I didn't realize when I was going there, we were going to do deliverance on one of the highest ranking voodoo priests there. This was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And when I flew in there, he, like you're talking about, Farah, he had the fetish shack, which had the stuff to make zombies.
Oh, how nice.
The puffer fish, snake, and all that stuff.
And you're just like, oh my gosh.
That's what I thought. What did you guys bring me into?
Can you, give me a clue before you walk me right in the middle of hell, okay? At least let me put on my zoot suit.
But like you said, you have to walk with Jesus and how he did this.
Always.
Before I got there, and why I was brought there is because the pastor brought him a Bible, and he refused to read out of the Bible. I can't remember what the pastor told him, why don't you read Judges or something like that.
Oh, my gosh.
And the voodoo guy goes, I don't need that garbage. I'm a high voodoo master. So the guy got drunk that night because he couldn't fall asleep because he kept getting the urge of the Holy Spirit to read the Bible like he was told to.
Wow.
And he wouldn't do it, so he got drunk and finally fell asleep, and Jesus read to him out of Judges the exact passage, and he freaked out.
Oh, my gosh.
And he went back and talked to the pastor, and that's how I got brought over to start breaking off the voodoo stuff. But you have to know what power you're walking with in this through Jesus.
Always.
You can't be complacent to like, oh, Jesus is going to protect me, but you have to understand what you're walking into and how we set this thing up. When I went to that field, we literally had a worship team marching before me, almost like Old Testament. The only thing we were missing was the Ark of the Covenant. It was incredible.
Yes.
We had about 20 worshipers, and we went out to this guy. We did the deliverance, and then the pastor's going, "Well, Mike, we did a great job. Let's go see the next highest-ranking voodoo person." And she was a priestess. I go, "Oh God, dude, I'm gonna be dead by the end of the night." You know?
Yeah, somebody's gonna stick something in my ankle here, quick. Oh my gosh.
And daughter was Christian. You know, they live in this little shack, right? But she was a voodoo priestess, and she came out and she goes, "I don't want to take on Jesus." She just came out and said it.
Wow.
These are people making offers, right?
Yes.
And she goes, and she looks, goes, "But can you help my daughter?"
Oh,
and so
how
we prayed
sad.
got healed. So she was, I think she eventually got delivered too. So it's just, you have to walk in that power, knowing what Jesus is going to do, and you're walking in the supernatural, what He's going to do. But you also have to be conscientious too, because I've worked with people where the deliverance ministers, like in Nigeria, dropped dead because they didn't realize they were working with regional spirits, like angelic spirits. It just wiped them out. You got to be very careful where you walk and analyze the situation.
I agree.
So, is that pretty much along those lines? Like, there was a lot of shady characters who misrepresent the truth, and one guy named Microverse. I don't care about saying names. You know, you can look it up. When I say facts, screw it. You know. He had like a bunch of facts, like 50 supposed facts about demons. And one of the things he said, you have to know exactly what the spell is to break it. And I was thinking, like, what? So I wrote like 11 of the 50. He had 11 of the 50 were way off. One of them was that Catholics believe that all suicides go to hell. I'm like, what? We're the only one who doesn't. You know, so he was this way off. But that was one of the things I remembered, and that was back in 2005. And so, to what degree can we pass it around? Farah, do you think that that's one of the reasons I didn't keep these books that I had? There were references about witches because I found it absolutely no help. And you can, yeah. So is that pretty much from your experience prior to us joining in holy matrimony?
Okay, what? I'm sorry, I'm trying to answer stuff in the chat room.
And your past ministries of working prior to me being with you in our relationship in our ministry, have you found that there's any use of having this knowledge about like voodoo or something? Because I was saying in general that you have to know the spell, what the spell is before you can deal with it.
It's not so much know the spell, because we were in the military. We ran into a lot of weird stuff and a lot of weird people and a lot of weird altars. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there and say, when people want to leave something, whether it's some form of mishmash of Catholicism and paganism, or they're not comfortable with what their family does twice a year. When they decide that they've had enough, I was not a deliverance minister. I was only trying to give help and consolation. I wasn't stepping into their arena like Michael was actually stepping into their arena to help someone. All right, that is a whole different ball game than somebody coming to you and saying, "Hey, can you help me get away from this?" or "What should I do about this?" and who do I tell?
Spiritual warfare counseling.
When you're talking to a 14-year-old girl that has been ritually molested by family members for years, to where she just can't even remember, and she doesn't really know what happens. And let's just say the family members don't believe her because they're probably in on it. There are only two options for a child like this, and sadly, it's just not easy. Is it going to help me to understand what culture they're from? No. Is it going to help me to understand what the demonic tactics or their practices are? No. What's going to help me is to know who can I trust that is going to help her get away from her family, which is like totally illegal. I mean, you don't tell somebody to run away from your family. So I had to know people in the community that could either A, get her a new identity and get her out of the state, or B, had to get her to a counselor that was capable of understanding why she exhibited different personality traits, why she lost track of time, and how this it's like a satanic programming would take over, and she would just revert to like this little girl and pretend that she'd lied and she didn't know anything and she never said that. Well, I never told you that. I'm like, oh yeah, you did.
Right.
And that's a real hard place to be in. So the best place to be is right next to God. Keep your prayers up, kiddies. Stay strong in the Lord. There's a reason that the Orthodox Catholics walk around in their gardens and they say, have mercy on me, Lord. I'm a sinner. Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. It is the understanding that we can do nothing without our Creator that created us. And no matter what things that people are going up against, all of those nasty things are all subject to Jesus Christ. So I think that whereas if you're going to walk in a situation, like if Ken and I were about to walk into a situation, and say, hey, Christopher, we got to go, we've got this going on, and this is coming from this, overseas. We have cases that where people carry this stuff with them overseas. It's a good idea for Christopher Sampson to know, this is what we're walking into, or get a briefing. Or,
right.
if Ken's not familiar with it, it's a good idea for him to talk to a couple of people and say, okay, what's the history of this? More so than just an intake. Why? Because knowledge is power. In the spiritual world, it's not only good to be prayed up, but to also to have an idea what the size of your adversary is. Is he an adversary that likes chicken, or does he like lizard?
I like tuna.
I know I'm being crass about this, but that in the situation where we would be going and stepping into somebody else's arena, a little bit of knowledge is very useful. That's an excellent question, Rose. Excellent question.
Christopher, your 2 cents is welcome.
I was just thinking that outside of kind of studying the tactics of your opponent and kind of their thought patterns, you don't. To me, I would never want to walk in totally clueless about what I was going in. Like Farah said, maybe a briefing might help before we actually step out there. But, ultimately in the end, to me, despite whatever knowledge or whatever information I may have, ultimately for me, it's not so much having knowledge of who I'm coming against, it's knowing who is with me,
so true.
Who I represent.
Yep.
And I could have the most scant knowledge of who I'm to face.
Yep.
And that's good and fine and everything, but if I don't walk in knowing that I'm a child of God, Jesus, Lord and Savior, Father, brother, came and died and rose again, and that he promised he would be with me.
Yes.
I think, you might as well just, drop everything and run home and get straight with the Lord before anything else.
Good point.
To me, that's ultimately, like I said, it's not who I'm facing, it's who I'm walking into battle with.
That's right. Who's at your right side? Who's carrying?
That's right.
Yeah. I'm sorry that I might have simplified this a little too much on what I said earlier, but the reality is that I think that when you're going to Satanism, the one way to look at it is we said to somebody recently that when you deal with a religion or faith or whatever it's considered, a practice, a dabbling, that starts to recognize that there's some sort of like deity that you're bowing and instead of just some sort of blind practice like some forms of Wicca or whatever, when it's the Great Horned One, you're breaking the first commandment, and you're actually, doing something that's not just like, hey, I'm just manipulating the Force, like
literally
play on Star Wars, or something that's scientific, and some of these people who follow this Crowley magic,
that's crazy
it doesn't get into the demons at some lower level. And there's even like a brand of Wicca that's more like you're a nature witch. You know, like the way who's that guy who did Night Before Christmas? This funny skinny guy looks like Rick Ocasek, and he portrays in that movie about the Headless Horseman that the one gal's mother was this nature witch, and she's just like floating in the air in the forest, and the butterflies are flying around. So she just loves. The problem is she's worshiping God's creations, not God. So that's the problem. And that, even though it's not a deity per se, like when you go straight to worshiping Satan directly, it's so much more of a darker thing. And if you're not aware of that, and you go in thinking everything's going to be normal, and as we said earlier, that you got to step it up when the game is stepped up in the demon side, you got to step it up too. So I guess I can nullify in a way what I just said, but in general, what I was saying is definitely true. You don't need to know to spell, but you have to know the nature of the faith. The quote Gable Amorth, he said that Hinduism, voodoo, which includes the Santeria, which is the sort of Catholic, a distortion of voodoo distorting the Catholic perspective kind of thing, and Satanism are the three worst type of possessions, spirit, related to that possession, to be removed. Now, Michael, I know that you dealt with all three of them too. And, this is talking from a perspective where you're trying to get a demon out, and it's related to that. And I think it's good to keep it out there. And because if they didn't understand where it came from, I know what I'm dealing with right now. What do you ask for the numbers of the demons? And sometimes you get the name and you go, that's a hierarchy demon. If you can prove that it is, because they'll lie and
exactly,
they'll give a name.
Anymore.
And they might even lie why they're there. Why are you here? Why are you here? If you don't have the authority to make them tell the truth or whatever, and they'll lie to whoever. But good questions tonight. Great questions tonight. Good time too, because we've been a little offset too, Deb. We had 10 questions for Deb, which about the devil in Connecticut, the most horrific story, if you call it a story. It's good. It's so long and vast and deep and evil. It's the worst case that I've ever encountered. I didn't work on that case. No, I was too young then. And so Deb is on assignment tonight, so we're going to postpone that till 2 weeks. And
we got more questions from the chat room.
Good.
Okay, Rose has a really good question here, and I know everybody's going to get a good grin out of it, but it's going to be fun talking about it. She'd like to know, point blank, now, are the demons in different languages in different countries, are they all the same different demon? Are they the same demons, or are they different demons? Who do you want to go first on that one? Yeah, demons from different countries.
That's a great
different
question.
Religions. Very good question, Rose.
People pull this stuff on, and I noticed an author that I think is pretty good. It's gone kind of wayward without mentioning a name. They keep saying like the jinn is some sort of different thing than a demon. That's just another culture's, like name for a demon, and they say they're made of fire and all that kind of stuff. But look at the book it came from too. I don't want to be demonetized on the channel too, man. They're so picky. Yeah, that's where you don't you don't get your ad. Anyway,
people won't advertise. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just deal with it.
But the jinn, a demon is a demon, and why if they're it's only for Muslims and Islam, so we need a Muslim, and that's what some of these paranormal teams do too. Oh, we need a Muslim holy man, and we need a every denomination and faith represented on our team. So Mr. Haunted Man, so you're Islamic, okay, we have a so and so. Oh, you're Native American, we have a shaman, at least the person representing me. Most of the shamans are phony anyway. It's like the priest. There's an epidemic of phony shamans just as much as there is priests.
Yep.
So they're trying to match this, but you don't need to. Go in there and you'll find out they all run with the higher. God is the God of all gods. It said that in the Bible at one stop, because he had to talk the prophet on their level, because people are looking at these other gods like, there's all these multiple gods. Well, God is the creator of all things, and all these gods came, they call themselves gods. They wanted to be the fallen. that one size fits all. Jesus came for everybody who accepts him. And as soon as you mention Jesus' name, trying to get rid of a spirit, you're actually stepped over that line, into understanding that Jesus has an authority, using his name as asserting a certain authority that no one has ever had. The only thing you had before that was appeasement. So to start with that, you might have to rephrase the question, Farah. I think I destroyed it. And then pass it to Chris or
You forgetting our Van Halen belt traveler?
Chris or Van Halen belt man. Van Halen belt man. Or Michael Norton.
Right.
Okay, the question again is,
You got
guys,
that, Barney?
after, Ken's brain is, starting to malfunction now, is demons in other countries and demons of other pagan religions, like demons from Haiti and demons from Africa, are they the same demons, or are they all different demons from different places? Okay, Chris, you want to jump on that one since we picked on Mike last time?
Sure. My first thought is only God alone is infinite. Padre Pio once said that if demons if we could see the demons, if they were visible, they would block out the light of the sun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but at the same time, they are still only a certain number.
Yes.
Only God is infinite.
That's right.
The angels, there's a certain number that only God knows, but there's still only a certain number.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of where, we're confined by geography.
Yes.
They are not.
Mm-hmm.
And so if one country calls them this, we call them another thing, still the same, still approach, still causes the same havoc and chaos in a person's life. Okay, well, it's not like, oh yeah, there's something new out there. Well, no. It's still, what was a few weeks ago, quoting Romeo and Juliet, a rose by any other name.
Oh, yes.
So it's still a rose.
Speaking of that.
It's just a different name for it. So.
No offense, Rose.
Yeah, no offense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mike, hit us with your best shot.
No,
Fire away.
A demon. They portray themselves to be lowercase gods everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, like in Cambodia, you got the multi-snake head, whatever the heck that stupid thing is. But everywhere I've been, all these third world countries, it's like, despite what you said, David, how we watered down the shamans here, everybody shamans, or every Native Americans, or whatever they're doing, whatever New Age stuff.
Yeah.
They all submit to these pastors to go and cast them out. And they lend themselves over to converting to Christianity when other people see this happen, especially the priests or priestesses of these other religions, because they couldn't do it.
Very true.
So they're useful. I guess what Stalin would call useful idiots, we can say that.
I think you can say that.
There is always a hierarchy.
Oh, yeah.
I like to simplify things, but I think that, that some of these things add to all the explanation of why it works for some and not others. But I think the best thing to say is that all evil spirits are all in the same network, and then you only have human and inhuman.
They're in the yellow pages, folks.
Yeah. And there's only two ways to get rid of them. You can force them out in the name of Jesus Christ. There's nothing you can do that forces them out. You can only appease them, throw in a version of the volcano, or something even more horrific than that. I mean, because they did that, and they demanded those appeasements, and they demanded worship. And one way or another, even when you think you're not doing anything, like, oh, well, this one guy over there on YouTube was like, well, they does me a favor, and all he wants is this feather. It's, okay. So at least that's what he says. Anybody ever seen a movie Wishmaster? Basically, be careful what you wish for. It's like, that's exactly how it works. And it's like, I didn't know it was going to do that, And of course, did you really expect to get something for nothing? Wait for the payback. Wait for that pit bull that's temperamental to go for the jugular. It's only a matter of time. I mean, there's even haunting episodes, older ones, that were like that, where this one guy actually went and started using witchcraft methods to get rid of spirit, and then he ends up getting striked at by those spirits, and so they're not friendly. And that's what I always said. It's like when you say the Our Father and you mess up, does the angels come down and kick your butt? No, you make an incomplete soul circle, and then you do your witchcraft, and you pay. You pay that night. One guy had what he described as an invisible dog attacking him, and I mean, this dual nature stuff has got to stop, And the only way you can stop them is through the highest God of gods, who has a son, Jesus Christ, who became man. And I'm saying from reality, I'm trying to say this is how it works, not as like, I'm an some fundamentalist Christian. There is the highest
for
God.
Intolerant Christian, yes.
Yep. Chris, speak the word. Speak it.
Right. I mean, there is only one name, that every other name is subject to, and that is the name of Jesus. And they may, one side may say, "Oh, there you go, bashing us over the head with your faith." Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, it just happens to be true. And I say but I mean, eventually you'll come to see that name is the only name, and there's a reason why that name means salvation. It wasn't just an accident. God had the plan from the very beginning,
yes, exactly.
And nothing happens out of His control. I mean, Jesus points that out in Matthew. Not a hair of your head falls. So if not a hair of my head falls, the name of Jesus is not an accident either. So it's just a matter of time. But thank God that I have this faith. I thank God for you guys. That we are connected in the Lord. And we know in the end who wins. So
true.
That's true.
Can I piggyback on top of Christopher real fast? It's like when you deal with like these demons, like they're whether in South America or here, or like you said, that people think only a voodoo priest can cast her out of voodoo. It's amazing how these voodoo demons seem to know scripture. They know it, and when you pull it on them, every time they all know it. They just get furious because then
that's an old assumption.
They don't care about scripture. Then
or they can't say
it.
That's a myth that they can't say it. They can't say certain things, but they can read Bible quotes perfect, and people think, it is the Blessed Mother or whatever.
Yep, they sure know it.
Well, I'd like to round off this conversation, the last question, with a final caveat from what we know about angels and how they operate, especially the fallen ones. Whereas the question applies specifically, are the demons here in the United States the same demons as the one in Mexico and the ones over in England? Yes, they are. I agree with what everybody says. I do have to add, though, that with the angels that serve God, they all have a purpose.
Yeah.
They all have a purpose. And everything under heaven serves God. So whether or not we like to think of demons as actually serving God, they actually are. Their evil purposes will still serve God. Yep. It's just not seen that way because it's so horrific, it's so evil, it's so anti-God just that we can't possibly imagine. That said, to go further about, are the demons the same? The difference is there are demons of the air, there are demons of the earth, there are demons of the water. There are demons of this town, there are demons of your town. Demons have assignments, they have principalities, they have specific areas that they are in charge of. That is who they are. So is the demon of my city the same as your city? No. The same kind of demon. Same, they're all cut from the same cloth. They're the same immortal trying to destroy everything in the city.
Different.
But it's that principality. Now, is the demon of, let's say, the caves under this city the same demon as the demon of the salt caves in Detroit? No, but they're basically the same kind of demon. They're evil. Their job is to do evil, and that's all I wanted to end it with, kids, is that there are demons of specific areas. That's why it's not good to go into cemeteries to play and to hang out looking for stuff. It's not good to go into something that you see is obviously, shall we say, operated by a man at one time that looks like old ruins or old mounds. It's not always a good idea to go play there at night. Haunted houses at night are a very bad idea too, because
because of what you wish for.
Yes, the entities that have been given license over a place where there's horrific things that happen have not only told two friends, but the people that were there before you, they brought their demons. So it's now a cockroach party, and guess what? You're on the menu. It's my take.
Yep, it's true.
Thank you, Farah. Yeah, and that's a lot. So we're trying to land some thoughts for people that some people call ghost hunters or paranormal investigation teams, and trying to pass it on what we've learned so you don't learn the hard way, because we can't just I was even thinking about this the other day. We just can't go and say all the things in a negative fashion. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Get rid of your we're not going to stop it. We can't stop it, no matter how powerful that we get like 1,000 exorcists in the United States. It's like no one can bypass all of them. So if they want to do something, and maybe we can, and some of them aren't, but we got to do the best we can, and that's what part of the reason of the show is, to reach to everybody with the truth. And it's not just not the perceived truth, it's the truth that works. Like you add vinegar to baking soda. You think that one time you're going to add the two together, and vinegar and baking soda are not flat, there's nothing wrong with them chemically? Is it going to act any different? No, that's the way demonic spirits are. You're dealing with hierarchy and that so forth.
Immortal beings, kids.
Yeah.
They don't have a timeline. Okay, next, Ken. Everybody's saying, what happened to our break? We didn't get our usual break. I didn't get my cheese break.
We can give them a little break. That's fine. You know why? Because it's only like 2 minutes anyway, right?
Can you guys stay an extra 20 minutes so that we can round off the time?
Mm-hmm. Chris,
Mike, can you guys stay an extra 20 minutes? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick 2-minute break. Walk your doggies, get your cheese, but don't go anywhere, because we're going to be back. Right here. Real Deels.
Hang right there. We'll be right back.
Don't turn off that show. Oh my gosh, we need a cigar. It's that time of night, folks.
Cigars.
Oh my gosh, Patricia Pepper joined us. Oh, she's not feeling so well. Oh, go back to bed then, Patricia. Thank you all so much for hanging us. It was just like so crazy tonight, and we appreciate it all. We're running over about 20 minutes, so we have the full show to put up on YouTube. So, if you missed it tonight, you can always go check us out on YouTube. As always, our links. We are no longer saying the word where we broadcast at anymore. We're directing everybody to YouTube. We're having a blast tonight. We've got Michael in the house, and we've got Christopher in the house, and we're just having a great night. We were going to be talking about Deb's case, which we hope to do 2 weeks from. Next week is going to be Father Bob Bailey, and I'm sure you have seen him on all sorts of different shows where he did investigation, he did deliverance. Father Bob, wonderful, loving, sweet priest. He's going to come on. We're going to talk about some angels and movies and whatever else he wants. We're just going to have a free-for-all because we like Father Bob. He likes hanging out with us, and oh my gosh, okay, we're just going to have fun with him. So...
Yeah, for you folks out there that didn't notice, did you know that Father Bob and Father Mike Driscoll went to the same seminary together? And they get, I think they even graduated, whatever you call it, at the same time. I mean, it's a college, so eventually you get out of there. So that's an interesting thing. Though at one point we actually, when we had Father Mike on, on our radio show, we brought Father Bob in there so they could say hello to each other. That was an interesting show. So, yeah, well, we never know what's going to come out of that. But he's had some interesting experiences in his cases, and he's up there in the upper part of the states, and I think is he
Rhode Island.
Maine, Rhode Island. Okay,
Rhode
all right,
Island.
okay, yeah, thank you.
He's a roadie. Hey, Cecilia's in the house too.
Cecilia,
yes.
yeah.
So many people. I really appreciate you guys hanging out
You're
with us
breaking
tonight.
my heart. Yeah, we're still.
Next question.
Okay, so if there's none from the chat room, we're going to go on to the next one. I think this was an interesting one because when we talk to people a lot, they'll hear a voice in your ear that's a guttural voice, or they'll do an EVP, which is when you record something and it shows up on the tape unexpectedly. Even some of the more horrific cases where it's nothing there at all, and it's something very clear, where the voice says, your Godhead can't help you now. Can't do a guttural voice as much as they can. But if it's supposed to be a female voice and it sounds like that, it's not. You remember the kid from the Stephen King movie, the one about the hotel, The Shining? Remember he was doing red rum.
Oh, that was funny. That was just like a ventriloquist.
I know, it's like, what a bad thing. Is this worm? Is that red worm the worm? Red rum the worm? Or the worm from the bottom of his tequila bottle? I don't know. But, yeah, guttural voices is kind of a common thing, and it's been, I think, abused and overused, too, by people imagining
and
things. And
over-exaggerated.
So the question is, guttural voices from the possessed. How common is that? We'll take advantage of our guest. I'll just make one little short statement. And the ones... we noticed a few of them, they didn't talk in a different voice, and it wasn't them at all. They had no memory of it. One was just screaming, so their voice would distort. It's not like they purposely voice went down to a different voice, like, it's a female voice, and it's like, what do you want? And they can't go that low if they even wanted to. Because, like, when females try to do it, like, they usually go, what do you want? Like, they can only go so low. They can only distort it so much. But it didn't. A lot of them don't sound. This sounds like themselves. It doesn't sound like some.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So with that, who should we go to first, Farah? Let me ask you first.
We picked on Chris last time.
We did.
Yeah, we picked on Chris.
I want to hear. Have you experienced any of that? Prior to our own ministry with each other, did it sound like them distorting their own voice, or?
You're asking me.
Should I skip that? Should I skip that serial murder?
I hung out, with psychos, and
that's the idea.
Let's talk to Mike. Mike is a little bit more coherent. I just hung out with people and party.
Oh, sometimes they've done it, and that's what freaks you out when the first time you hear it. Your hair stands up in your back of your neck, and you don't expect it.
Not really.
Coming out of a child's mouth. The demon just does that to freak you out a lot of times. It's just for show.
It's a trick. It's a trick.
Yeah. Mikey.
Mikey.
Let's go to Mikey. Mikey hates everything.
Yeah, it's just weird stuff that comes out of their mouth. You're looking like, we are the ones who sacrificed their babies to Mayans or something like that, or we the ones that fly through the rings of Saturn. You're like, what on earth are you talking about? They change channels real fast, and they all want to talk. Like, what the heck is this thing? I didn't get the guttural, you just get the weird,
The rings of Saturn?
What is Mom, yeah.
So you got a new age, and you got some ancient, occult pagan religion demon, right?
What the heck is this?
Yeah.
Whatever you guys are, get out.
I know. Find another home. You're not welcome here.
There you go. You don't need to address it for what it says it is.
There's a gerbil. Go play.
See, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, and most of the time, Mike, we instead of addressing it, it's like, spirits of Hinduism, blah blah blah, and you name the actual spirit that you think is in there. You don't.
Yes.
That's the name they decided that you would call it. Remember when the priest said something along the lines that. Of course, we're as laity, we don't do this sort of thing. But if you get the demon to agree to a name, that name is just as potent as if a demon had revealed his name and you're using it to drive it out. And I thought, that's interesting. So I'm going to call you Flubby. In the name of Jesus Christ, be gone, Flubby. And it'll work as long as the demon agrees that you force him to agree, even if he's not revealing his name, because they can be very stubborn. So anyway, Mike, keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's pretty much it. I just have them just spout out weird stuff, so you let them talk anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You just you're just going, what is this stuff about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But usually, it's not so much the guttural, it's when you listen to they talk in the plural.
Oh, it sounds like a second voice later.
Usually when we put DID, it's like they think they're... Yeah, they'll talk in second person or the plural. Like with DID, they go, I'm possessed, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not. You're talking about yourself. Usually, they start talking in the plural or third person when you hear a demon come up. Like she belongs to us, or she's ours, and it's kind of plural or third person.
That's a good point, too, because that comes up with the other thing about, we don't have it on the list, symptoms of multiple personality disorder. What are they calling it in DSM-5 again? That's why I haven't gotten it. I think they're working on it so they can remove transgenders. It's in there as a mental, it's in there as abnormal psychology under another name. I can't believe it got so far that we almost had them going to the restrooms at public schools as a mandate, things got so crazy for a little bit. So, Christopher, that drug and alcohol abuse is often a window or an opportunity for a demonic to come in there. I wouldn't be surprised if you just experienced that in a session. Multiple personality disorder, as a psychologist would say. Guttural voices coming out of somebody who should, let's hear what you think about that.
I've never had the different voices in a session. Well, what I typically get in the over first 10 years or so that I've been doing this is that I will, in sitting there, my whole attention is, of course, focused on the client, but I will literally see their expression change, their whole demeanor, and the kind of suddenly, every so often I'll get one that their eyes will suddenly dart to the corner of the room, or they'll kind of suddenly get this real threatening kind of stance, or things like that. So if you were to throw at, of course we start seeing people at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So if at 5 in the morning, if suddenly you threw a guttural voice at me, I'd probably have to quit for the stand. I'm so out of here.
Yeah.
But no, I've never had anything like that personally. But like Ken, like you said, addiction does open a lot of doors to that, and it's not uncommon for a client to tell me, I had this voice, and I keep hearing this voice, and it tells me to give up, or it tells me I need to kill myself, or they will say I don't know what to do about the shadow being that stands by my bed, and I can't sleep. So, and automatically, of course, as I learn more about this, I'm like, okay, we need to flag that and return to that topic. But instantly, of course, I pray for all of my clients anyway. So.
Yeah, good for you, Chris. Great guy.
Hey, before we go any further, I forgot to tell everybody, please go to the bottom of the video, click the little like button, the little thing that lets everybody know you like it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you get a chance, because a lot of you may miss it, so subscribe. Okay. Last question of the night. We got 7 minutes. Michael, did you want to address this one about the guttural voices? Or you already did, right?
No, I pretty much did.
Okay. Ken? Guttural voices.
I guess we're all done with that. I think it's just a matter of perspective. Some people hear this stuff. That's the problem with watching too many of these shows. It's like, oh, I finally heard my first guttural voice. Oh, I saw my first levitation or whatever. It's like they're got a checkbook. So, oh, look, I did that. I accomplished that. Like middle-age crisis things, like I ran with the bulls. I skydived. It's like, quit treating it like it's some sort of hunt list. Like a scavenger hunt.
What we didn't address is, I'm not sure if everybody here has heard us talk about this before. Sometimes when people are convinced, they either want attention or they probably are they have themselves so convinced that they're possessed or they're going through something that they'll switch on you in the conversation and they'll change to a guttural a voice. But the problem is here, folks, is they won't know Koine Greek. They won't be able to speak Slavic. They can't answer me back in Latin or, broken German, and they don't speak in the third person. That's something that it's really difficult to do. And it takes a lot of practice to speak in the third person.
Yeah, don't tell me that some demons, I know some lower ones are really...
That just was ridiculous.
They, like we said, the guardian angels have their strengths, and some other demons will not even be able to write that neat and perfect if they're writing, some manifestation on the wall or something. So don't expect them to know every language. But then again, if you speak to them in some language that you can say and understand, if you don't understand it, then how are you going to know when they speak it back and they answer you?
True.
That's kind of a test in itself, but you don't want to play around with this idea too much. It's like, okay, here we go again, scavenger hunt. Oh, they speak and understand my language. Well, I mean, that's the criteria of the Catholic Church. The prior to the Roman ritual, the basic four. So, I mean, and you're not a Catholic priest. Don't set yourself up to get to the point where you're at the final battle and you don't have the authority or the
so true.
to get it done. Because that's provoking. Yeah.
Don't bring a pea shooter in when you need a Tommy rocket.
Amen. Well, we'll take a question from the chat room. If we don't have any, we'll move on to another one here.
You've got exactly 4 minutes, and I'm cutting you off.
4 minutes? What clock are you looking at?
Mine.
It's according to my computer clock, we still have 10 minutes.
Okay, keep talking. I've got at least 6 minutes of goodbyes to say, so go.
All right, don't worry. Tucker will be on when you get in there on the reruns. Okay, unforgiveness. This is an important one. Let's see, what else we got here that might be more... let's let the people in the chat. What do you guys think? What's the most important one? Test for mental illness versus demonic?
Somebody in the chat room wanted us to share an experience, and what I think I'd like everybody to do is we all have different walks of life too in our day job as well. And maybe we can pull an experience out. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily, from a haunting or possession. It could be from somebody that we encountered that either we couldn't help or somebody that was helped and went on. But an experience, and that we can describe in about 3 or 4 minutes to let people know that there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. There's a lot of people out there that, are walking the borders of life, and there's so much more than just watching them flip out and gnash and bite and stuff like that. There's so much more that's just heartbreaking, and it's kind of like going into the cancer ward. That's what I liken it to. Taking toys into the kids on the cancer ward that they're going to die. And the difference here is these are adults that basically this is their soul, and they're saying no to you. And there's so many experiences that it's really hard. And if you get too close to this, if you don't, like Christopher was saying, if you don't just dump it all on God, you can really, really, really get hurt by trying to help people. So let's just all go into our little closet of experience, kids, and let's pull out an experience that we can share. Haunted, possession, something.
Anything? Yeah. Well, the recent ones are more fun because they're more fresh in your mind. But when you go to a particular case and then you find that they kind of played it up, and I think part of it's because of TV shows. I think there's a learning lesson in that don't believe in everything you hear. You can write it down and you count that for their testimony, just like a cop. And then there's an investigation that goes after that, just like a cop. And I don't mean just a cop, because there is something about this thing. It's like, and everybody's not going to be Ralph Sarchi, who actually can combine the two. Because we're not ex-cops, and we've always used that investigative Sherlock Holmes kind of thing on investigating a case, not so much going over the meters and cameras, and if we don't collect any evidence, then there's nothing there. Don't assume that that anybody who has a cop background is by default going to be tough enough, or a military guy. No, you better be spiritually tough, because you're going to get your butt kicked, and you can't pull an M16,
Yep.
or you don't. And everything you learn in the military means nothing. It gave you a false fearlessness.
Yes. That
you can only deal with whatever enemies out there in the world of this physical realm. So let me get that out of the way right away. There's just a rare person named Sarchi out there who happened to get introduced to both and handled it, just equally as well. And everybody else seems to be falling flat on their face for the most part. So stop putting in your bio, I'm a captain or anything like that, or ex-captain. Why are you an ex-captain? Did you get let go? Why are you not a captain anymore of the police force? But so, oh gosh, anyway, when we, you arrive on those kind of cases, you find that it's been kind of played up a little bit for the drama, and you got to really be careful on that sort of thing. Is it going to be any red flag that you go there and it's good for the doctor? Well, you guys tell me. We do notice that even when the priest goes there or anything like that, it's not necessarily going to put on a show until you actually cornered it. You remember with the possessed, when you start, and I'm saying that because, everybody out there has probably seen some of these realistic portrayals of such a thing, that it's quiet and it's good for the doctor until the priest starts the ritual, which has some provocation things in there. Yes. And then it's like the badger that's been backed up. It has no choice. Time to cash in its chips. They're trying to kick me out of here. I'm going to lose all our work for. And then I better, illustrate my full strength so I can try to intimidate them and try everything I got.
That's right.
So sometimes you go to these places and then you realize it's like, is this a nothing burger? Or because I'm not a priest, or even though we bring these things from the church, including relics, why is it so good for us? Nothing got thrown at me. I didn't get scratches, and that kind of can be a measure for some level. And I had to say, sometimes we're kind of disappointed because it's like, ooh, this one sounds really bad. Get extra prayed up and all that kind of stuff, and go in there, and it's like, okay, and I don't really feel anything particular. Not that you can go by that, but when the closer you are to God, the more off you are. On a case in particular, even when in this one, we went across the street and there was this big hulking shadowy thing right there in front of us. I went across the street with a sheriff's deputy, and then when we saw it, he saw it before I did, and he said, well, there it is. And I was looking at it too. It's like, is that what I think it is? And then he said it before I said anything. And then I threw holy water on it. And you know what its reaction was? Not the fleeting way that happens when you run a sleep paralysis demon off you, or whatever shadow's walking around your room and they can fly away. It slowly faded out over a period of 2 minutes. And I think that's this is another characteristic, like the zombie road that phenomenon that was illustrated in the documentary Children in the Grave. That those beings on the hill or whatever, you just saw shadowy silhouettes, didn't move, didn't at all. They just faded out like they were just a memory in time. Don't start on that residual stuff. There's always an intelligence behind it. There's always, why would it trigger when you walk there? If you're going to use this, limestone can record. No, it can't, Okay, who's next? That's going to bring that in a little tidbit on there. But, if you want to hear a horrific case, we can start it from the top to the bottom, but watch one of our clients be listening to the show tonight. Some of our clients do listen to the show, so they can get boned up on it. Okay, Farah, or Mike? Say something, Mike. Somebody wants some...
an experience you can share with everybody tonight?
Especially when it tells a lesson. Oh, that chair bump you? Sorry about that.
Well, I shared that last one, too, earlier about the girl we had was getting fully possessed.
Yes.
And we couldn't do anything. But I had... The other thing, too, is I had to minister to my team, let them know, no, we have to let this one go. Because there was an investment in a relationship with these people for a period of a year, right?
Wow.
And working with them. So, and just that time ago, we have to just drop it. We're out of it. You have to pull back and pull out so that person's ready. So, yeah, we've seen that.
That's hard. That's hard for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Farah, anything to throw into there? I guess it's not much time to add that. We'll have to ask this question again in the next one because
you basically got to take all the time.
You said didn't you say 3 to 4 minutes? It's like I was looking, you just said 4 minutes.
Please like our page, folks. Just like the video, go subscribe. Thank you for all the fabulous hearts. Thank you all for hanging in here tonight. Next week is Father Bob Bailey. You do not want to miss the show. We're still going to be taking great questions. And thank you all. I mean, it's so wonderful to have you guys out there and be able to interact live. It's just lots of fun. Yeah. Christopher, I hope you're still warm and you can go snuggle in now. And thank you for hanging out with us. Michael, I hope you are staying warm. I understand you're in northern country, right?
Yep, same time zone finally, but in northern country.
Oh my gosh, I wish you were closer. We could.
I gotta make it farther south one day. Yeah.
Yeah, someday. Well, you take care and God bless you and be careful on your way. And folks, don't ever forget the battle's already been won, and all of us here tonight, we're here to help you win that fight it right, and make it out alive.
See you next week, same
From the
channel.
Real Deels to you. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Thank you.
Okay.
Ori Cacciatore.
Yeah. Till next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.